Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going deep into the Quran, and specifically its guidance on spiritual growth.
It's such a rich topic. I mean, just thinking about the depth of wisdom the Quran has on this, it's
Oh,
fascinating.
you're so right. I'm particularly interested in how the Quran talks about spiritual growth, like not as some far-off ideal, but like something we can actually achieve with practical steps.
Hmm.
Like building virtues into our lives.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's really cool is that these virtues, like patience, humility, gratitude, resisting temptations, they're not even just like Islamic ideas. They're found across cultures and different philosophies.
Yeah.
Like they're universal paths to a more fulfilling life.
Okay, so let's dive in. We've got 5 key areas we want to unpack, and I'm really excited to start with the first one: meditation and self-reflection.
Great. The Quran, it really stresses contemplation and reflection. Like, it urges us to think deeply about the universe, the signs of God, even ourselves, as a way to connect with Allah.
There's something so powerful about that, isn't there? Like looking at the world, at all the intricate details of creation, and seeing it as a reflection of the divine.
Oh, absolutely. There's this beautiful verse in Surah al-Baqarah. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of the night and the day, are signs for those who understand.
It's like it's inviting us to see the world in a new way, to go beyond the everyday and find deeper meaning in everything around us.
Exactly. And that's not all. The Quran also encourages us to turn inward, to reflect on our own thoughts and actions and motivations.
So it's not just about what's outside, but also what's going on inside our own hearts and minds.
Yes. And here's where the concept of dhikr comes in. Dhikr is the remembrance of God. It's not just about formal prayer, but this ongoing awareness, a conscious effort to remember Allah in everything we do.
So how does that work, Tikar? Like, how does remembering God actually lead to spiritual growth?
It's all about cultivating a deeper connection with the divine through dhikr. It's like tuning a radio to a specific frequency. The more we focus on Allah, the more clearly we can sense His presence in our lives.
That's such a good analogy. And as that connection grows stronger, wouldn't it also influence our actions and thoughts,
Yeah,
like guiding us towards a more righteous way of living?
absolutely. Dhikr, it's like a compass, helping us navigate through the complexities of life and make choices that align with our spiritual values.
Okay, so we're starting to see how meditation and self-reflection, they lay this foundation for spiritual growth.
It's like this process of waking up, of moving from a state of being unaware to one where we're consciously connected to the divine.
I love that. It's making me want to bring more Dick into my own life. Okay, so I'm also really curious to learn about patience, the next virtue. I know the Quran puts a big emphasis on patience, especially during times of hardship.
You're absolutely right. Life is full of challenges, and the Quran reminds us that these challenges, they're not there to break us, but actually to refine us, to make our faith and character stronger.
There's this verse in Surah Al-Asr that always resonates with me. By time, indeed, mankind is in loss, except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds and advised each other to truth and advised each other to patience.
That's such a powerful reminder. It shows us that patience isn't just about enduring things passively. It's about actively engaging with those challenges, staying committed to truth and righteousness, even when things are tough.
It really makes you think, like how often do we lose our patience with just everyday stuff? How can we develop that kind of unwavering patience the Quran talks about?
Well, the Quran gives us all these amazing examples of prophets and other people who faced incredible challenges with such amazing patience. Prophet Job's story is a great example of enduring suffering with unwavering faith in Allah.
Oh, his story is so moving. It really shows the strength you can find by surrendering to God's will, even in the darkest moments.
Exactly. And his story, along with so many others in the Quran, they teach us that patience isn't about suppressing our feelings, but about channeling them in a way that brings us closer to Allah.
So it's about using our pain and frustration to understand God's plan better.
Exactly. Patience becomes a form of worship, an act of surrender to a wisdom that's greater than our own.
Wow, that's such a powerful perspective. It
Mm.
changes how I see patience, not just as a virtue, but as a spiritual practice.
And the beautiful thing is this practice, it comes with incredible rewards. The Quran promises that those who have patience, they'll receive blessings beyond measure.
So it's not just about getting through the tough times. It's about trusting that something amazing is waiting for us on the other side.
Yeah. Patience becomes this pathway to spiritual growth, like a stepping stone on our journey toward Allah.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these virtues, they all connect. Meditation and self-reflection bring us closer to God, and that connection fuels our patience when we face difficulties.
You're getting it. These virtues, they're all intertwined, each one supporting the others, and together they form this beautiful tapestry of spiritual growth.
I love that.
Mhm.
I'm so excited to dive into the next virtue, but can we take a quick break? I need a moment to just absorb all of this.
Of course. Taking time to reflect is so important on this journey. We'll continue our exploration in a bit. So, ready to jump back into our deep dive into spiritual growth and the Quran?
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how much we've already unpacked,
Mhm.
and we're only halfway through.
Right. The Quran's wisdom is just incredible.
Totally. And that last reflection on patience, wow, it's giving me so much to think about.
That's great to hear. So, where do you want to head next?
Well, we've talked about connecting with Allah through meditation and facing tough times with patience. I'm really curious about how the Quran guides us in how we treat others. You know, like the whole idea of humility.
Humility. It's absolutely essential for spiritual growth and something the Quran emphasizes so beautifully.
I've always been struck by how the Quran contrasts humility with arrogance. It seems like pride is often at the root of so many problems, conflicts and all those things.
You're so right. The Quran constantly warns us about arrogance and thinking we're better than others. It reminds us that real strength comes from recognizing that we depend on Allah.
There's a verse in Surah Luqman that really hits home for me. And do not turn your cheek in contempt toward people, and do not walk through the earth exultantly. Indeed, Allah does not like everyone self-deluded and boastful.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it? That verse shows us what can happen when pride takes over. It can blind us to our own faults and lead us down the wrong path.
It makes you think about how quick we are to judge others, like we're somehow better than them. Humility seems like the key to overcoming that kind of self-righteousness.
Exactly. Humility is all about realizing that we're all imperfect, that we all need Allah's mercy. It's about treating others with kindness and understanding, seeing their worth as creations of God.
It's like that saying, think of yourself less, not less of yourself.
Yes. Humility frees us from our egos and allows us to connect with people on a much deeper, more genuine level.
And wouldn't that also make us more compassionate and empathetic? Recognizing that we're all in this together.
Absolutely. Humility creates a sense of connection, reminding us that we're all part of this incredible tapestry created by the divine.
This is all making so much sense. Meditation and self-reflection connect us with Allah. Patience helps us when things are tough. And humility guides how we treat others. It's like each virtue builds on the last one, leading to a more fulfilling life.
I love how you're putting it all together. It's all about weaving these virtues into our lives, creating a life that pleases Allah and is full of meaning.
Now I'm really interested in the next virtue, gratitude. The Quran talks a lot about being grateful to Allah.
Gratitude is such a powerful force, don't you think? It can completely change our perspective, shifting our focus from what we don't have to all the good things in our lives.
It's so easy to get caught up in everyday life and forget to appreciate all the blessings we have. The Quran seems to be always reminding us to stop and give thanks.
One of the most powerful examples is in Surah Ar-Rahman, where Allah keeps asking, "Then which of the favors of your Lord will you deny?"
Wow, it's like a wake-up call, shaking us out of our routines and forcing us to see all the amazing things around us.
And that recognition is so important because it brings contentment and joy. When we focus on what we have instead of what we don't have, our hearts fill with gratitude.
There's a beautiful verse in Surah Ibrahim that says, "And if you should count the favors of Allah, you could not enumerate them. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful."
It shows us just how countless Allah's blessings are. We could never even count them all. It speaks volumes about His endless generosity and compassion.
I love how the Quran always points us back to Allah, reminding us that everything we have is a gift from Him.
And when we truly understand that, our hearts overflow with gratitude naturally. It's a beautiful cycle. The more we recognize His blessings, the more grateful we become.
So gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's something we practice. It's making a conscious effort to recognize and be thankful for everything Allah has given us.
You got it. And this practice has a huge impact on our spiritual well-being. It changes how we see things, lifts our spirits, and brings us closer to the divine.
Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. Meditation connects us to Allah. Patience helps us through tough times. Humility guides how we interact with others. And gratitude opens our hearts to appreciate His blessings. Each virtue builds on the one before it, creating this incredible path of spiritual growth.
You're getting it. It's about weaving these virtues into the very fabric of our lives, creating a life that pleases Allah and is full of meaning and purpose.
This is also inspiring. But I also realize there's another side to this. We've talked about developing these virtues, but what about the challenges along the way? Like the constant struggle of resisting temptation.
Ah, yes. That struggle is something everyone faces, and the Quran addresses it head-on. In fact, it offers us a lot of guidance on how to navigate that inner battle.
I'm so ready to dive into that. But first, can we take another quick pause? I want to really let these insights on gratitude sink in.
Of course. It's important to give ourselves time to absorb these reflections. We'll continue our exploration soon.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've covered so much ground already, exploring spiritual growth through the Quran.
It's been such an inspiring journey, hasn't it? We've looked at meditation, patience, humility, and gratitude. It's amazing to see how they all work together to create a life full of meaning.
Absolutely. It's like we've been putting together a puzzle piece by piece, and now we're starting to see this incredible picture of what it means to grow spiritually.
I love that. And as we move towards the final piece of our puzzle, I think it's important to remember that the journey isn't always easy. There are bumps along the way, moments where we feel lost or confused.
You're so right. And that brings us to resisting temptation, the last virtue we're diving into today. It's a struggle we all face, this constant battle between what we want and our commitment to Allah.
Exactly. The Quran acknowledges this struggle, and it gives us so much guidance on how to navigate these tricky situations.
Okay, so let's get into it. What are some of the strategies the Quran highlights for resisting temptation?
Well, one of the most powerful tools we have is knowledge. Learning about our faith, about Allah's commandments, about the difference between good and evil, it all gives us the power to make better choices.
It's like having a map and compass when you're exploring a dense forest. Knowledge lights the way, helping us avoid those pitfalls and stay on the right path.
Exactly. And there's this verse in Surah Al-Isra that emphasizes this. And do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart about all those, one will be questioned.
That's a strong reminder that we're responsible for our choices. We can't just say, oh, I didn't know, when we stray from the path.
Right. Knowledge comes with responsibility. It's a gift that helps us see the difference between right and wrong, between what nourishes our soul and what doesn't.
So it's not about blindly following rules, but about understanding the reasons behind them, the why behind the what.
Absolutely. When we understand the purpose of Allah's commandments, they become more than just rules. They become these guiding principles that lead us to a life filled with meaning and purpose.
Okay, knowledge is a key weapon in our fight against temptation. But what about those moments when our desires are just overwhelming? When we know what's right, but it's so hard to resist? How do we handle that?
Well, the Quran reminds us that real happiness, true fulfillment, it comes from our connection with Allah, not from temporary pleasures in this world.
It's like choosing a healthy meal over junk food. Junk food might taste good in the moment, but a healthy meal gives us the energy we need to keep going.
I like that. And the Quran highlights this in Surah Al-Qasas. But seek, through that which Allah has given you, the home of the hereafter, and yet do not forget your share of the world, and do good as Allah has done good to you, and desire not corruption in the land. Indeed, Allah does not like corruptors.
It's a reminder to focus on what truly matters, to remember that this life is temporary, while the hereafter is eternal.
Exactly. And when we keep that perspective, those temptations lose their power over us. We realize that true satisfaction comes from pleasing Allah, not from giving into every desire that pops up.
Okay, so knowledge gives us direction. Remembering our purpose helps weaken those temptations. What else? What other tools can we use to stay strong when we feel weak?
Well, one of the most powerful tools is prayer. Prayer is like a direct line to Allah, a lifeline we can hold on to when we feel ourselves slipping.
It's like calling a friend when you need help, but in this case, we're talking to the one who has ultimate power and wisdom.
That's a great way to put it. And the Quran emphasizes the importance of prayer in Surah Taha. And establish prayer for my remembrance.
It's like a reminder to reach out to Allah when we need Him most, to ask for His guidance, His strength, and His protection from those whispers of temptation.
You got it. Prayer brings us closer to Allah, and it reminds us that we're not alone in this struggle. He's always there to help us, to guide us back when we stray from the path.
I love that. It's so reassuring to know we have that constant source of support.
And the beauty of prayer is that it doesn't have to be these formal rituals. We can connect with Allah at any time, in any place, just by focusing our hearts on Him.
So it's about being aware of His presence all the time, making it a habit to turn to Him in every situation.
Exactly. That awareness is what gives us the strength to resist, to make choices that reflect our spiritual values.
Okay, so we've got knowledge, we've got our purpose, and we've got prayer. Anything else we can do to fortify ourselves against temptation?
Yes. The Quran also talks a lot about the importance of patience. We're going to face situations where those temptations just keep coming back and it's hard to resist. That's when patience becomes our best friend.
It's like training for a marathon. We can't expect to run 26 miles on our first try, right? It takes time, effort, and consistency to build up that endurance.
I love that analogy. And the Quran reminds us that spiritual growth works the same way. It's a journey, not a sprint. We're going to trip and fall sometimes, but the key is to get back up and keep going.
So it's recognizing that those setbacks are normal, and actually they make us stronger in the long run.
Exactly. And the Quran shows us this beautifully through the story of Prophet Joseph. He went through so many trials and temptations throughout his life, but he never wavered in his faith, and in the end, he was victorious.
His story is such a powerful example of the power of patience and trust in Allah, even when things feel hopeless.
Right. And it reminds us that Allah tests those He loves. Those tests, they're not meant to break us, but to make us stronger, to purify our hearts.
It's about trusting in Allah's plan, even when we don't understand it, believing that He's guiding us towards something greater.
You got it. And that trust is what gives us the strength to keep going, to get through the tough times, and to come out on the other side with a deeper understanding of ourselves and our Creator.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. Knowledge shows us the way. Remembering our purpose helps us resist. Prayer connects us to Allah's strength. And patience allows us to persevere through trials. Is there anything else we can do to build up our defenses against temptation?
One last thing the Quran emphasizes is the importance of holding ourselves accountable. It's about taking a good look at what we do, admitting our mistakes, and owning our choices.
It's like having a personal trainer for our spiritual growth. Someone to keep us on track, help us see where we need to improve, and encourage us to keep pushing forward.
Exactly, and Surah Al-Qiyamah reminds us about this. Indeed, man against himself will be a witness, even if he presents his excuses.
Wow, that's powerful. It reminds us that we can't hide from our own conscience, and we can't fool Allah. We'll be held accountable for everything we do.
Right, and knowing that encourages us to be more careful about our choices, because every decision we make has an impact.
So it's not just about avoiding punishment, but about trying to live a life that pleases Allah, a life that shows how committed we are to His teachings.
Exactly. Self-accountability is a crucial part of spiritual growth. It helps us stay honest with ourselves, see where we need to grow, and motivates us to keep striving to be our best.
Wow, this has been such an eye-opening conversation. We've explored so many valuable insights from the Quran on how to fight temptation and live a righteous life.
It's been my pleasure discussing this with you. I hope our listeners feel inspired to take these teachings and apply them to their own lives.
Me too. We've covered a lot of ground today, from meditation and patience to humility, gratitude, and finally, this crucial battle against temptation. It's like we've created a map for spiritual growth, a path full of both challenges and victories.
And the beautiful thing is that this map is available to anyone. The Quran's wisdom is timeless and universal, and it can guide anyone who is searching for a more meaningful life.
Absolutely. As we wrap up our deep dive into the Quran's teachings on spiritual growth, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought. We don't have to walk this path alone. Allah is always with us, guiding us, supporting us, and forgiving us every step of the way.
That's a wonderful reminder. May this exploration encourage us all to keep learning, growing, and striving to be closer to Allah.
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, may you all find peace and blessings.